What's up guys, Canuck here. We all know there's going to be a new PGA 2K game on the horizon at some point, hopefully in 2022. And with that's going to come a brand new course designer. Now we've been busy with the 2K21 course designer for the last about 14 months now, and it is incredible. It's a huge step up from the last game, TGC 2019, for what we've been able to do, and what people have done in this designer is nothing short of incredible. Now, are they all doable? Probably not. But anyway, this is just a fun wish list with some ideas. So I want to break this video down into 4 sections. New features, mechanics, quality of life. In other words, what would make the design process that much more smooth? And then some other kind of minor fun things that I think would just add a little spice to the course designer. So I obviously am not going to hit everything here. I think it would be a 3-hour video if it was every little tiny thing. But for every small or large thing I missed, please let me know in the comments what I did miss and what you would like to see in the new designer. And please, if you haven't already, please like the video if you do like it, of course, and subscribe to the channel. We are very, very close to 10,000 subscribers, so thank you so much for that. Without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, so we're going to start with new additions, some new things that I would love to see in the next iteration of the designer. And we're going to start with the most obvious. Just give us more objects to put on our golf course. Now, I'm talking everything. More plants, more trees, more rocks. I know we do have a lot and we have a great variety, but more is always better. Whatever that can be put in, varied objects, varied trees, varied plants, new styles of rocks, grass specifically, something like heather, some fescue, maybe some fescue that would really affect your lie. Right now, we're just taking this, grass and making it taller, but this isn't really traditional fescue. Give us some of that. I think that would be absolutely amazing. When it comes to maybe off-course stuff, buildings are huge. We have not seen any new clubhouses in, well, I think we've had these clubhouses since the very first iteration of the game. Now they still work and do their job, but they are getting very, very old. And a lot of designers have now taken to mixing and matching townhomes and lighthouses and shelters to create their own objects. So just give us some more tools and toys to play with. On the subject of buildings, maybe in addition or instead of giving us brand new large objects, give us a whole bunch of smaller ones. Walls, windows, doors. I mean, we have a few fences and things like that, but if we were able to snap together things to build our own buildings and houses and things like that, could you imagine the creativity? It would be infinite. So, almost like a Planet Coaster, if anyone's played that game. The way people are able to take walls and windows and make their own thing out of essentially nothing is very cool, and something I'd love to see in this game. Now, we know this is a golf game and not a construction game, but again, for some of that off-course stuff, if they could do something like that, it would be absolutely incredible. Now, I talk about adding things, but I also think there's some things in the designer that need to be improved. I'm in the plant section right now, and when you head to the kind of the later plants, you get some of these older ones that have been here since TGC 1. This plant, for instance, these look absolutely terrible right now. Sorry, HB, from close up and from far back. Just the draw distance is not good. I think these can be straight up removed. Yes, even my favorite plant, as much as I love this, I mean, I think it can go, or maybe just look a little sharper. It looks a little flat, as you can see. So, I mean, a few things like that, would getting rid of some of these. I think a lot of these aren't really needed, and they're not really used a ton. So maybe look at removing a few of these. I think they used to be called global plants, but I think less of these, probably better. All right, how about giving us the ability to paint surfaces? So what if I were able to, this is our little clubhouse here on Thieves Landing. What if I was able to paint the roof a different color? So maybe I had a paintbrush tool and I could pick any color on the color palette and change the color of, the logs. I could change the color of the walls. We don't have to be crazy and be able to change absolutely everything, but I think having even just a little bit would be would be just huge. So I think that would be cool. And also when it comes to painting textures, like we're used to, if we want to get a really rocky terrain in some themes, you plant trees underneath to get that rocky look. But if we could paint that and give us a variety of rock textures, sand textures, things like that, and let us paint it or apply it like that, I think it would be very, very cool. Other things I would like to see involve these additional surfaces. I love being able to add extra surfaces, but right now I find these surfaces are a bit, I would say, flat. So like this mulch, for example, it's just very flat. I would love that to have a little bit of substance to it. So if I do actually hit it into here, you know, it actually looks like pieces of mulch and it doesn't look like it's just completely flat. So having that a little bit more depth to that, as well as giving us some more options, maybe having us do 5 or 6 or 7 surfaces. I think that would be absolutely outstanding. Another huge thing, backdrops. Backdrops have been kind of stale in the last few iterations of the designer. There's 4 or 5 in each so-called theme. But again, if we had 10 or 15 even, and we're just talking minor things, maybe some changes to the mountainside, maybe they're in different areas, maybe we can change the orientation of where the mountains are. Even that would be an absolute game changer. So just giving us more options with the backdrop. Again, more options, more looks, more possibilities. And I think my last real big addition, and it actually is something we do have on the PC to a limited extent, is a photo mode, a real dedicated photo mode. Now I can press F10 and get a whole bunch of, you know, camera options, and then press F11 and have it nice and open to take a screenshot. Now this is great. Unfortunately, only people on PC can do this. If we're playing a game here that is really, really focused on making new courses and creativity and course design, being able to share pictures and teasers of your courses easily on all platforms, I think would be absolutely massive. So a lot of games have dedicated photo modes where you can change lighting and contrast and filters and all that. Having that and be able to share it easily, so we can share it on PlayStation or Xbox, on Twitter, whatever. I think that sharing in that course design community would grow tenfold. So photo mode, absolutely would love it in the new game. All right, so let's get into some mechanics. And I think probably the biggest thing that would completely change the game in the course designer is letting us use the advanced edit for everything. So for example, these rocks, I can lower and raise them and make them bigger and smaller, but I can't tilt them. I can't make them wider or skinnier or anything like that. But being able to do that with every object, for example, now I know there would be restrictions with some things, like some things would get really stretched out and look very, very ugly, but you know, letting us tilt trees or tilt grasses, tilt water, we're going to get to that in a bit too, but just let us advance edit absolutely everything. Buildings, walls, again, would just be absolutely huge. And what people could come up with would be absolutely incredible. All right, next thing I want to talk about is fencing. As you can see, I have a fence here, which is not great. We do have a decent snapping feature with the fences, but it would be absolutely awesome if the fences and the walls would snap together or follow the terrain of the land instead of me having to raise every little piece, or even maybe even just like clicking and dragging. So if I just wanted to make a fence, I could spline out a fence just like I would a fairway. I mean, that would be so good. So if I could just lay a fence like this, oh my goodness, game changer indeed. You know, maybe give us that an option for fences, for walls, retaining walls. Even retaining walls just need to be done. They just need to be easier, I think. Retaining walls are very, very painstaking. Now, I don't know how you would do that. They're a very tricky object, and as they interact with the water and they don't. At least we can raise and lower them. We didn't used to be able to do that, but still they are very, very finicky. So I would love to see more with walls and fences just snapping just making things a little bit quicker and easier to do. All right, next is the ability to let any kind of surface, including out of bounds, be a secondary surface. So what I mean is, you know, when we have green or fairway, the secondary surface would maybe be that light rough around it. I think this would be really important for something like out of bounds, because right now out of bounds, we just kind of paint it like this. And as you can see, the edges aren't defined. They're just kind of these circles or whatever brush we use. But if we had, for example, say some heavy rough and we were able to create a secondary surface of out of bounds, we would get that nice clean edge. And I think that would be very, very helpful for us creating out of bounds areas, for example. Again, something that would really, really help. Next thing I'm looking at is what I would call surface anarchy. So right now there's kind of a hierarchy of what types of surfaces go on top of what. So it makes it really difficult, for example, well, not difficult, just time consuming. For example, like if I wanted to put a bunker kind of in the fairway, to create this little area of heavy rough, I have to create another layer of fairway around it and just basically keep the heavy rough separate. But if I could lay down a bunker and then lay down my own heavy rough on top of the fairway, okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be underneath it. And being able to put any surface on top of any other surface, I think would be, again, very, very important and very exciting in what we could actually do. Now, coding and stuff, I know this has been an issue in previous versions, trying to get this right. So I don't know if this is a realistic thing, but for us designers, it's high on our list, that's for sure. All right, next would be having to do with being able to set our own rough length. So we have roll and texture and firmness, but being able to set our rough length. So maybe if we were playing more of a US Open style course and we wanted some really thick penalizing grass, we could raise that rough to be very thick. Now that wouldn't guarantee every shot would be like a 50 to 55% lie. It would just increase the chance of it. You'd still get some good rough lies, but being able to have variable rough where we could actually set it, that would really change the game in terms of how we set up our courses. So we can just thicken up the rough or lighten it up for different conditions and different tournaments. Again, options would be it would be limitless. So variable rough, would love to see that. And finally, last thing that I feel like can be removed, but this may be a little bit controversial because for new designers, this is how a lot of people get started, is to either scale back or completely remove the auto generation feature for course design. Now, yeah, it's great. You can go to layout, set the number of holes, set the par 3s and par 5s, and it basically builds you a very poor golf course. Either find a way to make those auto-generated courses a bit more playable rather than just, you know, like here, I'll show you. So if we wanted to do this like a stock course and apply, you know, there is our golf course. And I mean, this does not look great, okay? And even fixing this up is more of a chore than actually building a golf course from scratch. So either get rid of this feature completely or, you know, make it better. I mean, I think a great set of official tutorials for course design would be absolutely incredible. I know a guy, but yeah, I think I think removing this or making the auto generation feature better would be a big step. All right, so now on to a few quality of life things on my wish list, and this one is also very high on my list. Give us the ability to swap out auto-generated trees. So what I mean, I'm in the Delta theme right now, and the main trees that would get auto-generated in this case would be trees that don't really match how I want this golf course to look. I want these nice evergreens. And instead of me using a ton of plant meter to plant these, being able to maybe select 5 or 10 trees that I would love as the default trees that don't eat plant meter, again, game changer. Gives us more room to do some other off-course planting, and I don't think it would be a hit to any of the resources in the game as well. So being able to swap out auto-generated trees, even bushes, shrubs, again, just frees up more space for designers. All right, next has to do with paths and cart paths and roads. No matter what you do with the splines in this game, you always get a crooked edge, and it is impossible to get your cart paths to be completely straight on edgewise. Adding more splines, adding less splines, it doesn't really matter. So fixing up these splines to make nice, smooth edges instead of this really rough stuff, again, is something, I mean, I don't put cart paths on my courses usually for specifically this reason. I would love to, but it's just a hassle trying to fix it all the time. So cart paths, I think, definitely a thing that I would love to see improved in the new game. All right, next we are going to talk creating water. Now, the way water is done in this game with this square of water and kind of putting the land around it is okay, but I really do think there's a better option and something I would love to see. Again, I am not a developer, so I'm not sure how easy or hard this is, but I've seen in a ton of games like City Skylines, for example, you know, being able to lower the land and then have like a water tool where I could just fill that depression up with water. I mean, being able to do that would allow us to create, you know, tiered water, maybe some downhill creeks, instead of having to go down a little bit, create a waterfall, down a little bit, or making the water planes go down a couple inches each time. Either having a tool like that or allowing us to use these water planes and be able to tilt them. The fact that we can't tilt them is really, really disappointing and something I would love to see. Now we can make them bigger and smaller this way, but being able to tilt them on another axis, again, would be huge and allow people to create some pretty cool water features in the game. Another thing I would love to see involves fairways. So right now, unless you don't do a little trick at the beginning of your plot, you can see in my course design 201 video if you want to check it out. But when you lay down fairway, it will automatically flatten the land. Maybe give us an option to toggle that on or off. Some people like to have it flattened, but some people don't and like to use those natural undulations or work with them a little bit more, the sculpt tool. So give us that option to either turn off auto flatten or not. All right, and now kind of on to a few fun things that I would love to see, or small little minor things. One being in terms of our golf holes, like maybe being able to name them and then have them show up on the scorecard when people play them. You know, so instead of just calling it hole 9, I could give it a name. Now that would obviously be tough around censoring and things like that, but you know, we have censored words in this game. I think maybe even transferring that over and just giving us a little bit more of that creativity and seeing that maybe up in the top right hand corner, the whole name that you're playing as well. I think that would be really cool and just give that designers a little bit more creativity. Also, flyovers, we need them back. We've had them in the last few games, but being able to have flyovers, you know, yes, I know they probably looked at them and said, well, a lot of people skip them, but designers love using flyovers to really show off their holes. And yes, you can kind of make your own for presentation showcase purposes on the PC, but being able to not only have them back, maybe customize them. So maybe having them come in at different angles, not necessarily follow the waypoint. And also maybe being able to customize, you know, where the camera is going to be based on certain shots. So shots into the green, maybe I say, oh, maybe I want my camera angle to be here, or maybe I want it to be here when the player presses a button. Having that customization, again, I think would be really, really neat. Next thing I would absolutely love to see is a complete overhaul of the lighting model. Now, I love holes with low lighting into the sun, but when you go back the other way, it doesn't look so good. I know that's light physics and how it works, but you know, I think the lighting can definitely be improved. And also when you're setting things, you know, like very cloudy, you know, when the sun goes behind the big cloud, it can go from bright to very, very dark for multiple holes. And then I feel it really takes the immersion out. So maybe being able for us to have a little bit more control over that would be huge. All right, the next thing I would like to see, and believe it or not, we have it in this game already, are waves. There is only waves on one golf course in the entire game, and it is actually on my official course. It's called the Links at Royal Atlantic. And look at this, the waves look awesome. They come in, they crash against the shore, the spray pops up. It looks absolutely incredible. Why we don't have this option in the designer, I do not know, but we need it. I mean, this would look absolutely incredible for coastal courses. But as for right now, there is only one course in the entire game where it has this. Again, this is the TGC official Links at Royal Atlantic. It looks really cool. Let designers have a shot at this. I think it would be great. And the last thing I would love to know is, what is the red brush for? In the thousands of hours I have played this game, I am still not 100% sure what the point of the sculpt flatten and sculpt raise is. Yes, there are a few tricks to help you with water levels and things like that, but for the most part, I have no idea what they do. In my tutorials, I tell people just to pretend they don't exist. Why are they here? What are they for? Please tell us. All right, everybody, there is my designer wish list. It's not everything, but it's as much as I could cram into this video. Again, like I said at the beginning, if I did miss something, drop a comment below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.